what we're here for.
And what they're all here for is the K2 section of the competition as the South African Flatwater Canoe Marathon continues at Port Alfred. The Kawi River on a fine, clear day, the conditions about perfect.
We got off to a bad start and Daniel Conrady's rudder broke and slewed into the rest of us, and we were lucky to escape that. And then we had to work hard, come up the side and got back onto the front bunch. And we had to do a lot of the work initially.
Mark Perrault and Paul Byrne are one of the Transvaal crews which dominated the overall championships. Only Natal and Eastern Province presenting any real competition in the provincial stakes. Louw Malherbe and Chris de Waal in the blue of Western Province, nevertheless hanging on to the leading bunch as they head around and under the Port Alfred Bridge again. Tactics, determination and strength playing a big part in the 38.2 kilometre race, which takes them 3 times around a winding course through the inlets and marinas of Port Alfred. Richard von Mansberg and Dani Malherbe setting the pace at the moment in the colours of Transvaal. The 2 Malherbe brothers racing for different provinces and right alongside each other in the race. Wits paddlers Neil Evans and Graham Bird also hanging in well despite pre-race problems.
I've been sick the last week, so I was a little worried whether I'd lost the distance. But when we had a good start, I knew that we could start to dominate. And if the other guys didn't work us over and we could dictate the pace, then we could set the tune to however we felt.
6 boats left in the leading bunch, and the Transvaal is definitely setting the tune at the first compulsory portage. The 4 northern pairs trying to shake off the Western Province paddlers with some fast and fancy footwork. The Kawi at low tide, the water absolutely flat and the current not too difficult at this stage of the race. Malherbe and von Mansberg once again taking up the pace and keeping the pack going at full steam. A lot of hard work in the chasing group as well, with local pairs Russen, Fenn and Shaw and Butley taking on Hartley and White and Mork and Millard of Natal. In the leading group, Perrault and Byrne on the near side, Van Coller and Harris furthest away, while sharing the front of the pack. The Malherbe brothers go head-to-head. Dani in red in the Riverside Centra kayak and Louw in blue NBS Devco hull. Louw Malherbe and Chris de Waal pull an interval, sprinting and forcing the rest of the pack to follow to try to shake off any of the crews who might be weakening. But everybody staying right in tight on this interval, although another break forming right on the heels of the first as Malherbe and de Waal slow down once again. This constant changing of pace is very tiring. One of the crews pushing ahead very strongly and sliding off to the left of the pack to make it difficult for the others to get onto their wave very quickly. And even von Mansberg and Dani Malherbe with problems.
We've got a little bit of a problem. I'm a little bit out of timing, and that's why I think we can be a much better combination. But now we're going to paddle just doubles from now on. And it must just get better from now on.
Richard von Mansberg and Dani Malherbe on their views of their performance. And it seems like the only colour in the race is red at the moment, with Transvaal represented by 4 of the first 6. All the paddlers trying to stay on the good wave just behind the leaders. The beauty of the marina now disturbed for a moment as the lead group make their way through. Nobody yet able to make a clean break and set up a pursuit. The competition just too watchful at the moment. And while the K2s were heading out the day's racing, other results were already in. In the junior men's division, Hank McGregor of Natal dominated the K1 section, finishing the 2-lap race ahead of his doubles partner Anthony Stott, with Scott Rutherford bringing home 3rd place for Natal as well, giving the Banana Boys the top 4 places. And in the K2 event, it was the same 4 paddlers, McGregor and Stott, winning the gold, and Rutherford and Callister the silver, allowing the Van Deventer brothers from Cape Town the 3rd place for Western Province. In the junior ladies events, it was Natal dominating once again, Kirsten Oliver and teammate Lana Jenkins taking the gold and silver, and then going on as a pair to take the gold in the K2 class as well. But in the senior men's K2s, de Waal and Malherbe were starting to feel the pinch.
We knew beforehand, should the bunch come down to 4 Transvaal boats with 1 Western Province boat, it's going to be difficult to keep up with the guys. So we fell off there. we kept in contact, sort of. They had about a 30-40 second gap on us the whole time.
Both province boats in the leading bunch with the same problem, Wilson and Du Toit also being forced off the pace by the dominant Transvaalers. And once off the wave of the leading bunch, it's much more difficult for any paddler to cross over and come back again. Jonker of Transvaal finding the same thing in the senior ladies K1 race, while Rory Bohm in second was not strong enough despite her huge win in the women's K2s with Sandra Erdley. And that meant a huge victory for Ankie Manfroni, the ex-German and world champion, now paddling for Transvaal, taking gold by over 8 minutes. Neil Evans taking time out from paddling for an energy boost, allowing partner Graham Bird to take the strain for a moment and keep them on the leading pace, while the two Western Province boats were catching up but just not able to get onto the wave of the leaders. This is an important race for all the contestants on several levels. The national selectors out to select a squad for the series of internationals coming up, including the World Championships in Spain later this year. This race the first of the senior trials, with the next up on the Vaal in June. Ankie Manfroni already picked to lead the South African challenge in the ladies K1 class, and Hank McGregor the junior men's K1s, but several more places still open in the various categories. Pumps in the boats not in great use, with the calm conditions as the leaders hit the compulsory portage section for the second time. Transvaal managing to stay ahead of the province boats with a fast run across the hard sand. Running is often as important as paddling at this level of competition, and many a race has been won and lost on a portage section, with the South Africans usually getting a lot of practice when the rivers are low in the dry years. But the Western Province paddlers with an uphill battle all the way.
You work very hard to get back. I mean, this is top racing conditions. The four boats in front is paddling hard. So you work hard to catch them. As soon as you catch them, they do an interval. So then it's very difficult. You're tired. They pull an interval, they switch round and let somebody else pull while they take a rest on the wave, whereas you must pull the whole time. So that's what happened to us. So the first time we caught them, we dropped off again, but not far, luckily.
Then once the Western Province boats caught us again, they were obviously very tired from having had to work so hard to get back, and they weren't much of a threat at all. By then things had slowed down to conserve a bit for the end sprint, and the tactics began playing a part.
But despite all the obstacles placed in their way by the Transvaalers, Western Province still managing to cross over and take up position in the lead group, although Malherbe and De Waal now very tired. Mark Perro also showing the strain of the constant pace changes. Paul Byrne behind him just as tired. This has been a very close race all the way, with no clear leader being established early on, which means an all-out sprint finish, and those paddlers with some reserves left obviously with an enormous advantage. And the final sprint coming earlier than any of the leaders would have really liked. The contest coming down to the one between Robbie Herefeld and Graham Monteith on the near side, and Neil Evans and Graham Bird on the far side. Herefeld and Monteith willing to accept second place now and relaxing to allow Evans and Bird a clear path. But that slight slackening of pace coming just too soon. Richard van Mansberg and Dani Malherbe taking up the challenge for the win and setting out to make things difficult for Evans and Bird. So once again things coming to the sprint, this time all the way to the end as the two Transvaal boats pull away from the pack, leaving Herefeld and Monteith to defend third place against the Western Province pair. And in the final few meters, Evans and Bird managing to find the reserves to hold up the flying attack of Van Mansberg and Malherbe.
Jostling for position, coming into the end sprint. Graham and I were leading. We managed to hold off Donnie and Richard for a very important win.
Quite hard coming into the end. Both myself and Niels suffered with a bit of cramps.
Op die water. En Dani Malherbe, die eerste skof van die